Assalamu alaikum. Now to begin, I would like to request a volunteer. Okay, you can come up. So, as you can see on the screen in front of you, this is a math problem.
Correct.
I'd just like you to solve this math problem.
56.
56. So how long did that take him? 2 seconds? Now how about this one? Okay, he's taking
56.
a little while. 56. Thank you. You can sit down. So he took only 2 seconds in the first math problem. And the second one, he took a number of more seconds than that. What was the difference between the problems? They were the exact same thing. The second problem was in Roman numerals, and the first problem was in English numbers. Now we have to ask ourselves, why do we still not use Roman numerals? The Western civilization used Roman numerals for so many centuries. Why do we use English numerals now? The answer to that is that English numerals are actually adopted from Arabic. In fact, the word for English numerals is not English numerals, it is Arabic numbers. The Muslim mathematicians who lived during the medieval period took Arabic numerals, and modern Western civilization has taken their numbers, and these are the number systems that we use today. Now, I wonder if anyone knows who this man is. I'd like to ask a question here. Who here is in high school, in grade 11 or 12? Just raise your hand. The number of people. Well, what if I told you that this man is the reason that you almost failed math class? This man was named al-khawarizmi. He was a Persian Muslim mathematician living during the medieval period. And as Sadr Saab mentioned earlier, he developed the mathematical discipline of algebra, which is taught in all Canadian universities in grade 11 and 12. The word algebra itself is from an Arabic word, al-jabir, which means to add or subtract roots. Now this may be surprising to some of you. We are told in our modern institutions of knowledge that between the period of 600 AD to 1300 AD, it was known as the Dark Ages, a time when there was no scientific insight or research or discoveries, a time when the world was under a theocratic Christian state. We have all heard the stories of Galileo being persecuted by the Catholic Church for his scientific advancement. But I want to tell you today that this narrative is a lie. Between that period, it was the Dark Ages of Europe. But the Dark Ages of Europe were also the Golden Age of Islam. And during this period, it was Muslims, Muslim thinkers, Muslim mathematicians, Muslim philosophers, Muslim scholars, Muslim scientists who were progressing humanity further. Now, I'd like to ask another question. Who here is in university? Please raise your hand. So, a number of people. So the picture that you see on the screen before you, this is the first university that was ever created. Known as the University of al-Qarawiyun in Morocco. It was founded in the year 800 AD by a Muslim woman named Fatima al-Fihri. The reason we have these advanced institutions of knowledge like Harvard and Princeton and Oxford, the reason that we have degree-granting universities are all due to the work of one Muslim woman. And this is not just me saying this. The Guinness Book of World Records and the body of UNESCO agrees that this is in fact the oldest university. Now there was another scientist living in this time, and before I elucidate upon him, I'd like to ask everyone here, who has a smartphone? Just raise your hand. So pretty much everyone. And what do we use smartphones for? Well, selfies, right? So where does modern photography come from? There was a Muslim scientist named al-haytham who lived in Egypt. And what he created, as you see in the diagram before you, was the camera obscura. The camera obscura was basically a large box with a hole in the front with a lens in it. And any light that traveled through the hole would produce an image inside the box of whatever was on the outside. As you can see in this diagram, it was a mosque that was transmitted into the inside as an image. Due to the camera obscura, we have modern photography. It is due to a Muslim scientist that we have smartphones with selfies. And not only did Ibn al-Haytham do this, but he wrote a book called Kitab al-Manazir, the book of optics. And in this book, he discovered a groundbreaking discovery. The Greeks before him believed that the eyes emit light, and that's how we see the universe. But Ibn al-Haytham said that it is not the eyes that emit light. It is actually light that reaches the eyes. And where would he have based this on? Well, the Quran says that Allah reaches the eyes, but the eyes do not reach Allah. Is it not interesting that Ibn al-Haytham, as a Muslim scientist, discovered this, which is also in the Quran? And not only was he known for optics and photography, but he was known as the first true scientist in history. We have to ask ourselves, what is science? Science is using a systematized, experimental method to discover the universe. The Greeks did not do science. They did philosophy. They used to think about things. But what happened with Ibn al-Haytham? He said, it is not enough that we look at the writings of our ancients and be content with them. We must submit each of their arguments to experiment. And the scientist today, Dr. Neil deGrasse Tyson, in his popular show Cosmos, agrees that Ibn al-Haytham was in fact the first scientist who formulated the scientific method that we still use today. Now, I'd like to ask everyone a question now. If you were living in the 17th century, how old do you think you would live on average? Just take a guess. Yes?
About 20, 30.
20, 30? Okay. 72?
Maybe
50?
50.
One more guess? 60. Okay. The average human lifespan in the 17th century was 35 years old. So most of us here are in our early 20s, right? That means we would have lived 2/3 of our lives already. But the average human lifespan today is 80. What changed? Well, there were advancements in modern medicine. How did these advancements come about? How did we develop drugs and medicines to improve our lifespan at a drastic rate? The answer is the science of chemistry, which is the science of understanding the universe at the molecular level. And the person who founded chemistry was also a Muslim scientist named al-Jabir ibn Hayyan. He lived only about 100 years after the death of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. And he developed chemistry. And not only that, but he discovered sulfur and mercury, and discovered a lot of things within chemistry that were not known to humanity before that. The word chemistry itself is from an Arabic word, al-kimiyya. Now, everyone knows who this person is behind me, Dr. Abdus Salam, the first Muslim Nobel laureate in science. Dr. Abdus Salam was once asked, "How do you see your legacy?" And Dr. Salam replied, "I am just another link in a long line of Muslim scientists going back to the medieval period." Now, I'd like to leave you all with a quote by the great scientist Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton said that I see further by standing on the shoulders of giants who came before me. And now we know about all these giants who discovered algebra, who discovered chemistry, who created the university. But it is not enough for us to remain sitting. We must also rise up and stand on the shoulders of giants. Jazakallah.